With BeQuiet's 20th anniversary, which I do congratulate, today we're having a couple of new products, and specifically we're going to talk about their BeQuiet Pure Loop 2 FX AIO, which is a 360, well basically I have a 360 model right here, which we will cover today in terms of all the details that you need to know. First of all, we're going to use Intel i9-12900K just because to see how it actually performs on a processor that actually it doesn't burn up, but it does heat up a bit. So I'm going to compare it with others and to see the thermals and how it actually performs. Now, a couple of things that is quite interesting and that you need to know. First and most important thing, you get a refill bottle. So in terms of certain evaporation from the liquid that happens over a longer period of time, because I haven't encountered a situation where I need to refill an AIO, you do get a bottle which you could refill the loop and it should be quite easy. But since we're just going to go in terms of thermals on the processor, we're not going to do that today. The rest of the things that I need to mention so you guys know more about it is quite simple. We have three fans which are addressable RGB, and these are light wings. So 120, you have addressable RGB light bar going around the propellers, basically all around the cooler, and you get two cables going out. One is 4-pin PWM and the other one is 3-pin addressable RGB 5 volts connector for the lights, for the addressable RGB basically. So you get three of those, and here we have the radiator and pump and block, all separated but all connected together already. So radiator with a sign Pure Loop 2 FX. We have a pump placed right here on the tubes, and the CPU block, which actually really does look quite outstanding. We have a combination of black and brushed aluminum on top and the addressable RGB going around. Now, as a look at the tubes and how they go, they're quite nicely assembled in terms of placement. When you place them on your processor, they don't collide with anything. They shouldn't collide with RAMs, but we'll get to that part. And from the tube, as we can see, and from the pump basically, we have one cable of each going out. So from the pump right here we have the 4-pin PWM header that actually controls the speeds of your pump, and we have addressable RGB header going from the pump, which needs to be connected to control the RGB. Now with this you get of course all the standoffs, you get all the mounting brackets, and of course the brackets for the LGA 1700, which is quite normal nowadays because 1700 LGA is already out for a while now, and basically it's a normal accessory, well, mounting kit for each CPU tower cooler or AIO. Basically it's time to place it inside the case. Since we're going to use pure base FX, we're going to place it on front, and that's it. But there's nothing to worry about when it comes to air and thermals and everything else damaging the pump or something like that, because the air will be stuck right here, either on top or on the highest point. Since the pump is here almost at the highest point, we will check if there's going to be some issues when we're talking about bubbling noise or liquid going through the loop, but we'll get to that part later on. So let's check out the build. Pure base 500 FX with Pure Loop 2 FX 360. It actually can fit only on front, and there's a possibility basically for you guys to put the pump, which is right here, and flex the tubes a bit lower so the pump isn't in the highest point, and that gives you a possibility to mount it on front because the air then gets stuck right here at the top of the radiator. But that's not the thing that you need to worry about. Now for some specifications before we go further into thermals and stuff like that. So we have the new lineup, let's say an updated version from the past Pure Loop 2. We have a nice cooling performance even on i9-12900K, which I said we'll get to that part later on. In this scenario, because I have a 360, you get three Lightwings 120 PWM high-speed fans, which offer high air pressure and quite nice addressable RGB. I have to say, even the pump looks quite outstanding. double decoupled PWM pump for quiet operation and minimal vibration. You also get one more cool thing which you don't get with the standard Pure Loop 2, and this is the addressable RGB PWM hub, which enables synchronization up to 6 addressable RGB components and PWM fans, which is outstanding, because honestly, my personal opinion when it comes to those hubs added with the AIOs is actually quite good, because you could nicely organize the cables. First of all, you don't have to think about how you're going to reroute everything at the back. But then again, it gives you much more ease of organizing, well, not organizing, controlling addressable RGB and controlling the PWM for the fans, well, basically the speeds. So the addressable RGB and PWM hub really does help a lot with all of that. Now, when we're talking about some visual aspects, combination of addressable RGB illumination, all black design and aluminum style for the block top is definitely a clean look without a doubt. Pump speed goes up to 5500 RPMs, pump adjustability is from 4000 to 5500 RPMs, and basically that's it when we're talking about some technical specifications, because everything that we see right here is quite outstanding. Now for the thermals, this is where it gets really interesting. So on 25% speed, when we're talking about pump and the fans, which is dead silent, I can definitely confirm it's dead silent. The CPU, so 12900K, goes up to 88 degrees Celsius in AIDA 64 Extreme Edition, only with CPU and GPU ticked. So the GPU goes up to 63. If we tick CPU, FPU, cache and system memory, the CPU goes up to 96 degrees Celsius, which is a peak. It can go from 90, 93, it all depends, and the GPU stays the same, of course. So what I did is I pumped up the speed of the pump and the fans and went up to 75% of the speed, which really did lower the temperatures. So just CPU and GPU, the CPU went up to 67 degrees Celsius, the GPU went up to 62. So 1 degree Celsius lower for the GPU, just because the fans from the front did create much more airflow, but that's not drastic, so you don't have to worry about it. And then the interesting part, CPU, FPU, cache and system memory ticked for the CPU, we get 86 degrees Celsius peak. And that's, I'm mentioning peak because watching the temperatures rise and fall, it goes from 82, 84 and it peaks at 86. So this is actually quite outstanding. The GPU went up to 64 and there's nothing to worry about that, because the RTX 3070 Supreme X, that's quite a normal, I would say, temperature. So I'm quite fascinated, first of all, with the temperatures, because on some AIOs I got higher, on some AIOs I got lower, but then were thicker radiators, there were larger radiators than 360. So it all kind of comes down to, well, basically size of the radiator, performance of the fans, performance of the pumps, of course. Then we have the load, well, basically the speed of the pump and the fans, comparing it to the decibel noise, because currently I have a curve set up to adjust the speeds of the fans and the pump according to the temperature of the CPU. So currently it's inaudible. It's really dead silent. And if you put load on your processor, of course, temperature goes higher. Immediately the fan curve goes up, of course, and the pump curve goes up. It really does start cooling, and it still stays silent, not dead silent. Of course, you do hear some fans, pump barely. You do really have to put your ear next to your PC to hear the pump. So big thumbs up actually for BeQuiet, and it's not actually, it's quite normal, because usually their products are really quiet. I mean, why am I saying quiet? Their name is BeQuiet, so there's nothing to actually be surprised. But the Pure Loop 2 FX, especially the 360, can cool the i9 12900K without a problem, even with all the stuff ticked in AIDA 64 Extreme Edition. So if you go into gaming or some slight rendering editing, you don't have to worry about temperatures with this AIO, so there's that. Big thumbs up to BeQuiet, and definitely an approved badge for the Pure Loop 2 FX. You can check out the links in the description if you're interested, with the prices and additional specifications that you might find interesting, of course. Finally, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and hopefully I will see you next time in a new video. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.